I feel like we should just, have Mid-Journey up just in case I have inspiration.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
I want to see how Mid-Journey would imagine this.
You know what? It's all right. So let's start this pod off. First off, welcome back to episode 7.
Yeah.
We should check this before we start.
We really should.
Episode 7.
In the beginning, it was so easy to remember.
Yeah, we have not.
I'm kind of proud of us, though. 7 episodes.
Yeah, consecutively.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Tech Emotion Podcast. I am Corey. This is Gerald, depending on who you ask. To get us started, you had a really good idea in regards to this live demonstration of Mid-Journey. So I'm going to ask you, as we look to prompt it before we get our conversation started, how are you feeling, man? What's on your mind, bro?
I'm feeling overall good. That, healthy, tired feeling. Because there's a bad tired feeling.
Indeed.
Right, but then there's like a good tired feeling where you've put in work. So like this past week, traveling to Vancouver for Open Source Summit. Shout out to all the folks that were at Open Source Summit. I had a talk there on Vault, Kubernetes, Golang, all that fun stuff. And that was great. Was super happy when it was over, like I always am with those talks. And then traveling back. And so it's like a total of probably 7.5 hours flying.
Oh, wow.
There and same back. So
Gotcha.
Recovered a little bit yesterday. And now, today I was just working on some other content, video stuff. A little bit of code.
Gotcha.
Yeah, how are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm in the same predicament, just not for the same reason. That healthy tired, that energetic tired, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Got a good workout in. I've been mentally in a million different places at work, but it's good to finally have everything cascading the way it's supposed to be. Like oftentimes you walk into a situation and there's things everywhere, and it does take energy and thought to line them. But the sense of relief you get after aligning them just makes you feel a whole lot better. Yeah. And then wifey and I got a really good workout.
Beautiful.
I ran 2 miles. She only ran 1. She ran 1. But afterwards, I'm took a shower, feeling good. Yeah,
you're running.
Got to run in.
Hey,
yeah,
that's what's up.
Absolutely. So,
man,
feeling good.
It's good stuff, man. So, what are we talking about today? What's the topic? What's the deal?
So, we're gonna play a game. No. Typically, we start these with the explain it like I'm fives. This conversation is not going to be focused into any specific technology, but as we go through our analytics, our comments, we talk to people who watch the show. The intro to tech is still a very large piece of why people tune in. So this week we want to give people a view into if you were restarting in tech with no experience, nothing, just but an empty Google search bar and a tab with ChatGPT open, I guess. I don't know. And the same thing with me. Where would we find interest? What would be a focus? We'll attack this from a few different angles, and what we'd be looking for long term from these different companies and stuff of that nature. And actually, as I say that, as we get through this, maybe some reflection on our own starts into tech, things that maybe we felt at a certain point but don't hold true now, or maybe we wish we would have looked at it a little different then, as we move through.
Okay. So let me repeat it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know how, if I started over today, what I would do.
Absolutely.
To get into tech.
Yep.
Now, can we establish the audience a little bit here? Because I would tell someone who's 17, 18, just coming out of high school, something a little different than someone who's later on in their 20s or something trying to make a career shift. My advice may be a little different. So which one do you want first?
All right, you're talking to Mr. Agile here. You're talking to Mr. Design Thinking here. We finna build personas, dog.
Okay.
We gonna get started with the 18-year-old fresh out of high school. He got the guidance counselor telling him, you can go to school.
Okay.
You got, but he don't really like school, or she don't really, maybe she wants to go to school. Not sure.
All right.
But we're going to start with that 18-year-old. What advice, or this is 18-year-old Gary at this point, because he's not Gerald. 18-year-old Gary, how are you instructing Gary to take those steps forward?
So I always give the disclaimer first to that persona. Like, hey, going to college for computer science is one of the more useful degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a pretty decent use of your time over a 4-year period. You're going to learn some good stuff, and it'll give you a nice foundation if you do the work and aren't just spending your time in college partying and all that stuff. So if that's the route you want to go and you want the college experience and mommy and daddy are paying for college, whatever, go ahead, fine. That's, be aggressive with your internships, be aggressive with your coursework. You want to be pursuing those things very aggressively so that when you get out of college, you're already in a good position to be in a job, right?
Yeah.
So especially junior and senior year, I would say from sophomore year up, honestly, if you're really aggressive, why not every year? But sophomore year and up, at least really pushing heavy towards those internships, trying to get good internships at good companies and get some valuable experience, right?
What would you define as a good internship for that person? What should they be looking for?
So this requires a little bit of thought at that age, right? Because like if you're going to school for computer science, that's a very broad degree and there's a ton of jobs within that spec. You have software engineers, you have all of this stuff we've talked about around technology sales, you have the data science route. You can, like, from computer science, you can choose to dive specifically into whatever you want to. So those first couple years, right, freshman, sophomore, junior year, gain internships that give you diverse exposure.
Absolutely.
Right? So like you may want one internship that's heavy software engineering. You may want another internship that's focused on AI, machine learning, data science, get exposure to that. You may want something else that's on like the DevOps heavy automation side of things, just as examples. But you want to kind of have a few categories of interest and pursue jobs and internships in that time that expose you to all of that. By the time, in my opinion, you get to your senior year, you should ideally be having an idea of what it is, the job you want to pursue after you graduate, and have had the exposure. Those are the people that I've met that have done the college route correctly. To me, that's what they did.
The difference.
Yeah,
that's really big, because I remember at 18 years old, I'm working in electrical. And I came off 4 years of high school training in electrical. I knew my information. I knew my my trade. But something a gentleman said to me was, we appreciate what you have, but I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to look to mold you, regardless of. You have a strong base for us to mold, but we're going to teach you how to do it our way. And being 18 to 22 in that 4-year period, I think the vast level of exposure that you receive through these different internships is what allows that foundation to be built very strongly. Because companies will be willing to take those chances on you, willing to move into these. I remember previous companies, they had those specific like recruiting programs where they'd pay you. That's another discussion that we can have, because I found constantly that people were at the back end of it, and the work they were giving the company was not matching up the check the company was giving them. But that mold, and I'll say this for myself as a person who's really new and really novice at that time when I joined, they do look to mold you. Hey, you'll build it to our way and how we do things here, and then they can succeed here. Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, be molded. I mean, college isn't going to give you the practical experience. The internship is there in my mind as the practical experience, and college is giving you a lot of good theoretical things that you are going to use in your practical experience. Now, the things that you'll use, you may not think that you're going to use those things, but you will. Like, I think really in computer science, and I'm someone, like I said, from a non-traditional route, but like the things I had to go back and learn around, data structures, algorithms, those types of things, you learn those in your computer science degree, and that's the stuff that really becomes useful. But college teaches you very little about the practical side of doing a job, of a software engineer, of a web developer, of a data scientist or data engineer, etc., right? So you need the internship to teach you how that job works day to day. You won't learn that at school about how the job works day to day. So when you go into internship, allow them to mold you to what it looks like for them with the idea in mind, hey, this is how it works here. I'm going to be at a few different places ideally before the end of college.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to see how it works in multiple places.
I think that's really interesting because like I always laugh and joke. When I joined my first company in tech, like I took the full gallon of Kool-Aid and drank it as fast as I could. Where I was, this is amazing, and I'm not outside sweating, so I'm happy with everything that happens in this air-conditioned building. And I'm just like, they want innovation, and they want to be amazing and be kind and all these things. This is going to be awesome, and I'm never going to leave. Mm-hmm. And I think it was, in hindsight, it was a very immature, very novice thought to that point. And as a person in that situation with a family to feed, I had to think 2, 3, 4 times before making that shift. Mm-hmm. But being in that age range, potentially not having a family to support, being able to find those different things, I think that experience moves in your favor, like you mentioned, because now you can say, hey, you know what, I don't, and you have ways to compare it. Hey, I don't like the way that culture works. Sure, they do great work. They pay a lot of money, but I literally was leaving every day with my hair in my hands from pulling it out. Mm-hmm. That's just not the type of situation I want to be in. Or you go into the next one, it's just like, this is kumbaya. They got chocolate milk Thursdays. Everything they got ping pong tables and pizza parties. It's crazy. But like, I can't pay my bills.
Yeah.
But you're able to find those different angles at a time period where the pivot's easier, if I might say.
Yeah, there's going to be trade-offs with whatever company you work at. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to find a company that ideally fits with kind of your values to a degree, but like, let's just be real, this is work.
Yeah.
This is work. This is a way to make money to sustain yourself and your family if you choose to have one. That's how I view it. And outside of that, you know, I'm not really getting so romantic when it comes to work. You have to decide up front, in college as well, if we're talking to the same persona, decide tangibly how much money you want to make. Mm-hmm. So you know the field you're going into. If you decided to go into computer science, you know the field you're going into, right? But you still have to decide how much money you want to make in said field.
So before we even get deep into whether we're talking money or any of these different things, if we're breaking down values, mm-hmm. clearly money and compensation is a top thought when it comes to value, right? What are some other values that a person could carry with them?
Well, when I'm evaluating a company, yes, compensation is right up there near the top of my list. The only thing that would trump that is if I'm going into a situation where I have a toxic manager, someone who's not actually going to care about your progression as a person, right? And as someone in your field. If you're under a manager who's trying to hold you down and trying to prevent you from growth because they're afraid you're going to leave, right? That's a situation. I don't care how much money you're offering me.
The reddest of red flags.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump into it because that's going to prevent me from actually getting where I need to go. If there's a really toxic work schedule, right? If they're like, oh, no, we expect you to put in, you know, we say 8 hours a day, but we really expect, because of timelines and all of that, a consistent 12 to 18 hours, 18 is extreme, but let's just say 12 to 15 hours a day. Like, no, I'm not.
Those are always the company screaming work-life balance too. I don't know why. Yeah. It's like you're lying.
Yeah. And what I'm not saying here is like there'll always be a project deadline that comes up where you maybe have to put in a week or two of exorbitant work.
Absolutely.
Right? Where you're averaging that 12 plus hours a day. But if that's more than a week, I say 2 weeks because that's my absolute maximum.
If it's not for a reason.
Yeah, if it's not for a reason and it's continuous and it's not an extenuating circumstance and there's not a clear end to when this happens, no, it's not okay.
This is constantly happening. It's like every email coming into your inbox is marked urgent. Like how could these all be urgent? How could all of these fires and deadlines have to be put out and held to? And we're constantly up against these deadlines. Why are we not planning out in front?
That's a sign that there's something structurally wrong with the company. Either they don't value your position enough to be able to hire, or they're in a bad financial position and they can't hire more. Either way, all of that's sign to leave.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, don't continue to be there.
You know, it's interesting because having a discussion specifically about Agile here where we live, there's a large enterprise that is known to pay out the behind for Agile coaches, RTEs, like 1.5 to like 1.7 times the normal rate that people expect. Yeah. But you talk to anybody who works there and they're just like, it's messed up. They know it's messed up and they're paying you to know it's messed up. And sometimes, depending on where you land, they're paying you to fix it. But what we find is that where the more money is, they're paying you to be complicit. Hey, we don't want to change it, but now I can tell my shareholders, now I can tell everybody else, we brought in the top talent to fix this. We spent the money, but they know it's not going to get fixed.
Yeah. Oh, bro, don't even get me started on when a company becomes public. That whole dynamics is heavy across the banks. It's heavy across any type of regulated industry. Like, not all of them. Obviously, there's exceptions. But a lot of regulated industries have that type of toxic demeanor. And then you go, like, that's one in an extreme, right? The regulated industry and them expecting this out of you, and they might pay well, but some of them don't. But then you have the startup side, which is similar. Man. Like, the startup side expects a lot of work. There's a lot of this culture push, and it can be a lot of fun, honestly. Like, if you get the right type of people, it's a lot of fun to do that. But it's a different side of the same coin.
Yeah.
You're just being overworked, and if the people there are toxic people and taking advantage of the situation they're in, then you're going to be unhappy.
You know, it's a red flag for me when I'm just searching LinkedIn or Indeed and I see a startup come across this, and I typically only see it in startups, willing to wear multiple hats. That's immediately, I got to go scroll back to, hey, how much they said this was paying again? Because that number has to be crazy for you to tell me before we've even got started, I'm going to need you to do more than what I'm listing right here. That's what you're telling me in this situation. So it'd be one thing if we bring me in. I've seen it. It's happened to me a million times. Hey, Corey, you know, we didn't get what we were expecting out of this person. You have expertise here. You think you could fill in? Yeah, sure. I'll glue guy it. Okay. Hey, you know, this division's. No, you're telling me way in up front. And that tells me either we don't understand the process we're asking you to come in and enforce, or we just can't hire nobody else to actually do that other job. So we're paying you to do both. And then when I get into the role and I say, hey, man, that's not my job, they're going to pull up that rec and go, remember, we told you was going to wear many hats. Yeah. This is hat 7.
Yeah, if they don't elaborate after the many hats with a very clear list of what hats need to be worn, then, yeah, it's going to be a problem. I'm fine with, because in my job I wear multiple hats. You know, as long as I know the hats.
Gotta know the hats.
But if you're saying this is a dynamic hat list that, you know, changes over time, I don't really want all that. You know, it shouldn't be that hard to define what you want someone to do, even if you need to be a little bit more vague, right? To still give them a general idea and outline of what it is they're going to do. Yeah, I don't like that.
Or if it changes later, that's fine. Yeah. But I feel like this language specifically is meant for like the hands up. Well, we told you things were going to change. Like, well, you didn't know what the change was, but that's cool.
So, that persona, right, they're going to have to deal with all that. They're going to have to learn to navigate all of that around just learning how to read job descriptions, learning how to suss out toxic managers, learning out how to, you know, and some of that stuff you realize after you're in a job sometimes, right? Because people can put on a really good front and then just be not the thing they presented. Yeah. Outside of that, honestly, if you decide, I often tell people, if you decide how much money you want to make, I can give you a lot more pointed advice, right? If I know where you live and how much money you want to make, it's going to be easier conversation to give you guidance along what to do next.
So I'm in my freshman year. I'm 19 now. I'm in my freshman year. I now have to pick a discipline of comp sci, right? Whether I jump into security or whatever the case may be. But I need, out the gate, I need to be at least like brushing up against that 6-figure mark. I need about 85, 90, 95.
East Coast or West Coast?
I'm on the East Coast.
All right, East Coast, yeah. With a degree. First of all, as a freshman, I don't really think you have to decide exactly what discipline.
Okay.
You need to start thinking about it and evaluating it, and taking internships. Like choose 3 areas of interest, whether it be software engineering, security, AI, right, and then target internships across those 3 areas of interest, so that you can have ideally 1 to 3 of those or all of them worked by the time you graduate.
Gotcha.
So
say those I have those 3s in the tuck.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the 3, then I feel like I'm more talking to a junior or, you know. So if I'm talking to a junior or senior close to graduation, I'm going to say, okay, you have the internships. If you want to go security, as an example, there's a top tier money in a couple different lanes of security.
Okay.
If you want to go defensive security, you can go like security architect. You're going to have to get a whole bunch of certifications. You can work your way up over about like 5 to 10 years to this kind of security enterprise architect type of deal.
Yeah.
Right? And those folks can make around 150 on the East Coast. It's not crazy, right? I say that, but like 150, when I was making 150, it was crazy.
Absolutely.
It's just when you're in tech, right, and you look at relatively speaking to other roles, it's not that crazy.
No.
Now, offensive security side, if you want to be like an ethical hacker, work government, work private sector, right, in the ethical hacker space, man, you could be making like 250, 300 plus.
Sheesh.
But you got to be good at what you do.
You got to be them.
You got to be that person.
Him, or you got to be her.
Whoever
Him
you or her got to be all of it.
You got to be all of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
the one.
That's an interesting space to be in.
Yeah.
A lot going on in the security space. All right.
I don't want to take us down too deep.
No, yeah. I'm trying to just give you a quick response. The ethical hacking space is just like dancing on the line of chaos to me.
Copy. Because
all of that real hacking lure and temptation is all right there.
Like, if you could do that, you could do anything.
You have to know what the bad guys do in order to stop the bad guys. And then, you know, if you're just not careful, the lines can become blurred of what's bad, what's good, what's not. Like, it's just a dangerous space.
I believe it.
Right. So I love it. I think it's really cool. If I wasn't in the software engineering and like I went dev advocacy and stuff because this was chill and I was just by myself doing my thing, I probably would have went that route. Because it's fun. It's just a fun, entertaining place to be.
It's always something new.
So that's cool.
Sense.
You can make a lot of money there. There's other routes, but those are the 2 most common and kind of like higher paid ones. Leave comments if you know more.
Yeah.
Then if you're in AI, right? If you're interested in artificial intelligence, then you got data scientists, data engineers. I don't think make as much money as data scientists. You have the machine learning engineers. I would start as a data engineer or machine learning engineer, work my way up to either be a data scientist or another specialist type software engineer in the AI space. On the East Coast, you're probably going to make between 150 and 2. Right. On the West Coast, more, right? And if you're working at a startup or something that's not even considering equity and all of that stuff that you can get, to where you can get your total comp anywhere between, you know, probably still that 350 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Right. More on the West Coast. Then the other route was just like regular software engineer, which the path is like I worked my way up from like a junior entry level software engineer up to like staff or distinguished software engineer. That happens usually over the course of 8 to 10 years as well if you're pushing hard, and you can get into that same range, make anywhere between 200,000 and 300,000 with equity and all that fun stuff.
Copy.
So I think that would be that's the goal for me, right? I only look at jobs that are going to be getting near that 2 to 300,000 a year. If for me, it's like you're going to be putting in the same hours
Exactly.
anyway. Why wouldn't you go for the highest amount of money that you can get? And I also now prioritize flexibility in my schedule.
That's
So
one of those values, yeah.
yeah, being able to dictate like when I'm doing certain work and why, that was a big reason why I transferred over into developer advocacy, because I have a lot more autonomy over how I accomplish my work, when I accomplish my work, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Versus having to like be strictly beholden to releasing features every day.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
I think we've cracked the 18-year-old code from that perspective. So I'll start looking at 28. This person, I assume at 28 years old, could potentially be a career change. It could be never having a career, depending on maybe you just work different jobs or whoever was hiring, but now you decide, okay, I want to make want a little more stability. In that case, the reason I like 28 here is, like we've talked about it previously, and we'll have some guests on later. Here in Charlotte, there's a program they call Road to Hire. They look for people between the ages of 18 to 26. And oftentimes through my research, I'll find that there is often a lot of those types of programs, right, that are like geared towards people who maybe didn't go the college route, but they're young, not want to say impressionable, but can be molded and can be handed this skill to transform their lives from a financial perspective. At that 27, 28 through 30 range, you're kind of like the teenager in the orphanage. Like, we don't want to bring you home. You're not as cute and cuddly. So there's this,
that's sad.
Right? But there's much less programs that support that age group. They kind of just figure you got to get it by yourself. So that's what I suggest to that 28-year-old. I always wear my cap and gown. I'm a proud alumni of YouTube University. The path to me for that 28-year-old is much different than the drive, or much less important, I'll say, than the drive that that 28-year-old needs. You're going to be most likely with a family, most likely with people who depend on you at that age. But the amount of time that is going to take from a coding perspective, learning a new language or a coding language, you're going to have to shut the rest of that non-dependent world down.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just lock in, because you're already against the time clock, quote unquote, compared to that person who has that 4-year head start and has those other things. So taking advantage of those Pluralsight, Udemy courses, oftentimes this is the time and age where people start to understand a little more about themselves. They've been out of school for a decade, so hopefully they still have the same learning connections that they're able to grasp and learn. Sometimes that's not the case. So traditional schooling may work or may not work in those situations. So how do I find the skill shares and the online courses? Do I need to have a real conversation with myself? Can I go self-paced and go through these things myself? Or do I need to go to a community college or somewhere in person to go get these skills myself? Where do you typically point people of this range? Because now time is of the essence. I might not have 4 years like that 18-year-old to make that change. Time is of the essence now.
I feel like I have a much more aggressive opinion with this persona.
Okay.
So let's look at your advantages as this persona. Your advantages are you've ideally lived and gained some experience, whether it's and the fact that it's not directly related to tech or programming, etc. It's still related to life.
Absolutely.
So you need to find the overlap of how you can utilize your experience to enhance your value proposition as a person, as a candidate to enter in the tech. Because you can, and there are things that are valuable. The other side of that, and this is where the aggressive part of the opinion comes into play, you need to be willing to get in however you can get in. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care what you think you want to do. You need to pursue whatever opportunity is available and learn whatever is required in order to get in.
And that's not to say that down the line, once you're in, you can't make the pivot. Because once you're in, to a degree, you're in. But
once you're in and you get to about 1 to 3 years of experience, then you can start getting creative.
Exactly.
Okay, but you have at least 5 years of work to do right now. 5 years of work. Okay, get that in your head. 5 years of work.
Yeah.
You need to start with picking a path. I don't even care what path, but the path that the industry says is most relevant seems to be right now is software engineering roles centered around web development, starting with something like React or Angular or Vue.js. Okay, so that's the thing that they need the most. I'm going to learn that. I don't care if I want to do iOS apps. I don't care if you want to do data stuff. Like, I have the sense of urgency that like you're in a rush.
Exactly.
Okay. And if you're in a rush, we can't consider all of those feelings. We have to be decisive.
We have to be effective.
So you need to decide, choose the course. If you want a course, I just gave you one, software engineering, because then, and it's going to suck. It's going to be terrible. The first year that you're learning this stuff is going to be awful. And then if you get a job, the first 5 years are going to be hard work.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of positives in that once you get into the job, right? Ideally, you get into a job within a year or so, like in that year and a half. That's what I would target, you getting into a role. And the things you need to do, like do the things you need to do that, which we can get into if you want. But, okay, React or Angular or whatever the local job market says for you. Maybe it's a boot camp. Maybe you have to save up some type of money to join a 90-day boot camp that has connections across like recruitment and organizations and things like that. Like as you're vetting boot camps, make sure that they have real placement stuff.
When people talk to me about it and they'll say, "Oh, what do you think about this boot camp?" Hey man, are they gonna place you?
Yeah.
Well, they said they could help. Do not give them a dime of your money.
No.
Because for the same thing you're paying them, you could pay Pluralsight or Udemy 10% of it and be left with the same amount of connections at the end.
But in this persona we're talking about, I agree with you. Let me say, I agree with you. In this persona we're talking about, though, if we're keeping it hot, they haven't got here by working super hard.
Well, maybe they made a change.
A lot of them. Look,
hard
I'm saying that's great.
Yeah,
you made a change. That's great.
But now it's on to work hard on something different.
But those people, if you were motivated to do all that self-learning, you would have done the self-learning. Like true. Now, maybe something would have happened. Maybe you got a kid on the way. Maybe some event happened, right, that has sparked it, and you can jump into the self-learning. But if you're just the same person, there's no major life change or event. The odds of them being able to just go on their computer instead of looking on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram and go on to Pluralsight or Udemy,
that's rough.
It's low. Like you remember, even when I taught the bootcamp, I had a hard time with this. Because I'm telling people, go to Pluralsight, go to Udemy. And they're like, I just learn better in person.
That's a real thing.
They say it a lot.
It's a real thing.
And I'm not saying out of hate. I did a boot camp. Hold on. I taught the boot camp because of the feedback, because I tried to give folks cheap, inexpensive resources they could use on their own time. And the feedback was, I learn better in a group.
Learn better
I can't do it. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand.
We've talked about that before.
But it's real.
It's very real.
And so I have to acknowledge that as a real thing for other people.
Yes.
So that's the only reason I say boot camp.
But all right, so even to put a quick pin in this, that kind of brings up to this point. For this is going to be unanimous for both the 28-year-old and the 38-year-old. And something you've said to me months ago, maybe years ago, you're going to have to relearn how to learn.
Yes.
You're going to have to relearn basic skills, those basic reading and writing skills that you haven't tuned since you were in school, like government applied, you got to go, or your parents go to jail school. And you're going to have to, if you want to be successful in this same, take a look at your habits. That's when you're getting to the reading. Like now you got to start reading books, those self-improvement books, because you have to learn how to apply yourself to different things and to apply yourself to things that you may not particularly like. but it's like going to the gym. Like some people like working out and it's very easy for them. Some people need the end that working out will bring them, but they struggle through it.
Yep.
The easiest path to me is go get a trainer because that adds accountability. That's when people go, I need a group, I need other people, I need to be in person. The long lasting effect to me is I have to learn how to rewire my brain so that I like this. Even if I have to lie to myself, even if I have to completely work or gamify or find something around this. That will be the thing that lasts with me longer because that trainer might get sick and not be there on the day I need to work out. Or my gym partner may not be able to make it when I got to go. But if I can talk myself into it, that's what lasts. So pick up the book, audio book, all those self-improvements. Anytime you open Audible, there's a million of them right there in front of you. It's a $1 trillion industry for a reason. You're going to have to relearn how to learn.
And if you don't, I don't care about your success. Like, I'm just keep it high with you. I'm zero. If you aren't willing to do this thing.
But this is part of what we talked about last week.
Look,
if you're not willing to help you, I can't help you.
Exactly. I'm like, look, I'm not going to be more invested in your success than you are. And as much as I hate programs like the ones we talked about, putting an age gap, like cap.
There's a reason for
I don't like that. But I understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you run into folks, and obviously this isn't everyone, but stereotypically, when you run into folks over a certain age, they have these bad habits that they are just confidently and aggressively promoting in their own lives and become deeply offended if you challenge them.
Yeah, I just don't do that. I don't read.
You tell a lot. Yeah. You tell them. I'll be like, oh, they ask you, what should I do? They see us, someone who's young in comparison, right? And they're like, what should I do? I mean, I'm 29. How old are you now?
28.
Yeah, 29, 28 years old. We've been in the game for close to like pushing a decade now.
Yeah.
Speaking personally, right?
So 6 to 10 years between both of us. Yeah.
So you ask me, what should I do? And I say, well, figure out a way to educate yourself. Step one, videos, blah, blah, whatever. You keep talking to me, right? That's why I give you just kind of entry level because, whatever. Videos are easier. But if we really have a conversation, it eventually gets to, if you're pushing hard enough, the videos aren't going to give you what you need to know.
Absolutely.
Videos aren't going to give you what you need to know. So you're going to have to go to books and you're going to have to read. And if you come back to me and you say, oh, well, I don't like reading, to which my response is, I don't care. Like, we're talking about necessity here. I don't care if you don't like to read.
People in this profession read.
Yeah, first of all, I don't even believe you, but that's the whole other thing. I don't believe you. I just think you're bad at it. And people don't like things that they're bad at.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's
because
fine.
We could get better at it.
Of course. Like, I don't think I'm good at baseball. I'm good at a lot of different sports. I'm not good at baseball.
Fair.
Like, I don't like even how I have to throw the ball. Like, when I was growing up, me and my pops weren't throwing the baseball back and forth. We were throwing the football back and forth. So whenever I hold a baseball in my hand, it feels unnatural. I don't like it. I don't like having the mitt on my hand. If I could choose, I would never play baseball ever again in my life.
I thought you were gonna say if you could choose, you would just play baseball with no mitt and just like.
Oh yeah, I've done that, like just messing around. But
yeah, continue.
The bat, that's fine. That's all right. That's kind of fun. But everything else involved with the sport, I don't like.
Interested. Yeah.
Am I gonna go ahead and say, oh no, I hate baseball? No, I'm bad at baseball. I'm just not good at it. So I can say I don't like it, and that's my natural inclination to say I don't like it. But if I was good at baseball, I'm sure I'd like it.
Absolutely.
I'd enjoy it.
Absolutely.
It would be a great time.
That makes sense.
So there's that, and in this persona, because it's a lot easier to talk nice to the 18 to 20 year old persona.
And 10 years ain't that long of a decade, but this is, as a person who is currently in this box, this is an impressionable time, dog.
28 is impressionable?
Absolutely.
In what way?
I'm not feeling the full effects of this because I put my head down and tuned out the outside world at 22 or 23, right? A lot of my friends were not doing the same thing. So now that they're in this same age bracket, a lot of the hard decisions and truths that I learned at 23, 24, and 25, I'm realizing that people are picking up at 28, 29, and 30. But now you're picking these things up with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're learning these lessons with families to feed.
Yep.
And it's this, they talk midlife crisis. This is why. Because 28 through 30 is typically when you start to find, I don't like my job. It's not even a job. I don't even like what I do. Yeah. I've been here since I was 19, 20, 21. I don't have any other skills. And the ability to pivot out of it, I don't know what that looks like. That's scary. That's changed. That's different. And if you're not careful, that process is what will go on from 28 to 38. And now you're just like, well, it's too late now, which it's not. But that's what your mind will tell yourself. That's why I think that 28-year-old, it's such an impressionable time, because our generation always saw 30 as old. Now that I'm 28, I'm in the best shape of my life. Like, things are very, very clear for me right now. I can't wait to touch. Oh, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited for 30.
30's going to be dope. But that's because of preparation and work ahead of time. I understand why people were terrified of 30. 100%.
Yeah.
So even to this point, this age bracket, because of how loose your learning skills may have become, something like coding may become very difficult for a person in this age group and the next age group. This is where, to me, when you talk about that use of life experience and finding a way to marry it and adopt it to tech is very, very important. Because I always give the analogy of music. And from where I'm from and where I'm pretty sure where you're from, everybody and their mother want to be a rapper, right? Everybody wants to be the feature artist in their music.
Rapper or NBA or NFL.
Something. Yeah. Exactly, right? These are the big jumps. And I don't want to be the guy behind the guy behind the guy, like Crump said. I'm trying to be him.
Yep.
And when you realize that you may not have the skill set to be him, you fall out of love with the thing. Well, I love basketball. Okay, well, you're not good enough to play. All right, well, I'm just going to go work at Best Buy. Like, no. Hey, man, we still need coaches. You're really good at shooting the ball. You can teach somebody how to shoot. Oh, you're a really good rebounder. Why don't you work on it? It's the same way to me with tech. Because even at 22, 23, I realized as I got my foot in the door with coding, I could probably do this, but this hurts. Yeah. Like the 15 minutes of euphoria after slamming my head against this MacBook for a week and a half is not worth it to me. So I need to find another way. I wasn't good enough, fast enough to make the team. So I had to find value in those other ways. And those are the things to me that transition from another point very, very easily. If you decide, hey, I'm going to be a business analyst, there's tons of YouTube and Pluralsight and books to read and stuff of that matter. Hey, I want to go into Agile. I want to be a Scrum Master. There's tons of information on those different things. So you may feel, especially because of that 10-year gap of schooling, I can't tune my mind back into this specifically. But there's so many other paths that you can go down that this is the time period where I think it's important for those people to look at.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. I feel like people could confuse a little bit of it. So I want to dive into a couple pieces. So first piece is you mentioned coding wasn't what you wanted to do, but you were also a coder before you decided to stop.
Absolutely. Facts.
Got to put that out there. Yeah, okay. Look at me, guys.
That's real.
He was a coder working as a software professional before he decided this isn't for me. He had done all the work. Foot was
already in the door.
Foot was in the door. Everything has started. That's the difference than me getting into a boot camp 30 days in, or me getting into some type of learning program 2 modules in and deciding, this is too much.
I quit my job.
Yeah.
I was first off, I was making negative money at that job selling water. So what was I really there for? But literally, I told my manager, I left that boot camp on that Sunday, and me and you had a conversation. We were just like, hey man, you can do this and it's not that far off, but you have to focus. That Monday, I called my manager and was like, hey, I'm not coming back. Horrible professionalism, but I'm not coming back. And I was like, I have something else I have to focus on that I won't have time or energy for if I'm here. And he asked me like, hey, can you at least like finish out the jobs for like the next 2 days? So I went back, for 2 more days, and I was done. And literally for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, I was just focused on that one thing because I saw that as the way in. There was no, hey man, you could be a scrum master if you want, if you learn these. No. This was I won't call software engineering the base level, but like the thing that they will hire you off not having any experience, and that kind of takes to my main takeaway for that 28-year-old is your portfolio.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to create a portfolio.
It's not no experience.
Exactly.
You can show experience because you can show, if you can show what you've written.
Yeah.
And you can speak to and walk through exactly what it does and understand how it works, which is the hurdle.
Yeah.
Like that is enough a lot of time to get a junior position. That is a tried, true, proven way to get your foot into tech. You're going to have to learn a lot of difficult things and have a lot of tenacity and consistency to do that. It's going to hurt.
Yeah, nah,
like
for real.
This isn't going to be easy. I'm not talking to people that grew up messing with computers since they was 5 years old and making their own little games. The story of like pretty much any nerd you meet that's doing big things in tech, right? And they just had this natural intuition for it. No, I'm talking about people that grew up hooping outside, having a great time.
I can't do computers.
Never even, like, the only person they knew in computers was in IT support somewhere, and it was at a hospital, and like they didn't have to do anything code related.
I just reboot
and
computers.
They were the ones that were balling in your mind because, like, these are the types of folks I'm talking. You never had anything to do. It's gonna hurt. So push forward, do it anyway, because that's the way. At the 28 plus, that's the best way. To get in and get a job. And it's not the only way, but as far as effectiveness goes, it has the easy things you can track to see how close am I to being able to get into a job. You can grade your ability to start interviewing by your portfolio and your understanding and how you've drilled data structures and algorithms if you're searching for like software engineering jobs. And a lot of web dev jobs don't even go too deep into that, like entry level. But I would still do it. I still would tell people to do that because they're doing it a lot more now. So then you're ready. You're in there. You're doing it. Now you're making $30 to $35 an hour.
Because, I mean, truth be told, a lot of those boot camps that, especially the ones that ain't placed to you, they're just through project and instruction compiling your portfolio for you. Yeah. That's something you can save money yourself and compile.
But just remember the persona we're talking to. Yeah.
But no. We're still talking to them.
Like, doing it is going to hurt. You do it by yourself, it's going to be tough. It's going to be painful, but doing a boot camp doesn't make it less painful. It just makes it so you have someone else telling you what to do, and you don't have to think about what to do. Now, that's great, but you're still going to go through all that pain.
That might be worth the price.
That might be worth it to people, and that's what I've seen. I've seen that piece alone has been worth it to people, which is great. If you're going in eyes wide open and that's the piece you're attacking, fantastic. If you're thinking, I want to get a job from this boot camp, you have to evaluate if they actually have the services and connections so you can get a job. But if you need that, if you're fitting in that persona of, I just need to learn in person, like I can't do this by myself, sure, a boot camp might be worth it for you. Right. But understand, you're not going to learn everything you need to know to be successful from the boot camp. You're going to have to continue learning after the boot camp and after you get in a job. So this is the next piece. You've done all that pain, right? You've done the pain to get in the job. Now there's still another 1 to 3 years of pain.
Absolutely.
It's not as painful, right? But
it's pain with money, man.
It's pain with money. You're getting paid, right? So, and you're getting paid pretty well. So it's acceptable. But you're going to have to put in a ton of effort still. And it just becomes easier. It's like, if you're trying to squat 500 pounds, it's not that 500 pounds changes. You just become stronger. Yeah. You can more easily lift the 500 pounds. Indeed. So by the time you get 3 years in, you're like, this doesn't feel so heavy. Exactly. It's a whole thing. I just be decisive. Don't be lazy. Be willing to do the work.
That's all. And oftentimes in this age gap, I don't know. And I feel, I had a couple comments come back to me from last week's discussion just about how, and what I told them off, because some of the comments made about the ability and the want to of people learning the job or people new to the job, and those in the enterprise level seats who are hiring those people not wanting to deal with them, or maybe feeling like the talent pool is lesser than it was at one point. Mm-hmm. I think those interpersonal skills become very, very important. Because
I'm not understanding. What are you saying?
So there's a concern that comes in as far as joining a new company or having the skills. We've talked about imposter syndrome before, and all of those different things. And a lot of people brought up to me on the last episode that Crump's idealism towards people learning or coming new was like a little short, right? Okay. And my response to him, I said, if it is, it's respondent of what he sees. So it's not one man's opinion. What
specifically? Like, what was a little short?
That
we're gonna talk about it.
People aren't working as hard. People aren't as talented, and they don't understand that sometimes jobs run longer, or we got to stay a little later, or whatever the case may be. And that's what I was trying to help them to understand. Like, these are what people in hiring positions also feel and are looking at least from what I can see. I've had several discussions with those people in my own company where it's just like, man, it's hard to find people because everybody wants to log off at 2:00 and nobody wants to come to work and do the job. And and I think COVID plays a very large part in that as well, to where people got very, very comfortable, and maybe it's that expectations were larger than they initially let on. But I think somebody in that 28-year-old range, I guess I'll pose this question. Do you feel that employers look at the 18-year-old or the 22-year-old different than they look at the 28-year-old? Now, take off startup to public company glasses. Think about it as a whole. Are they expecting different things of that 22-year-old who's coming in as a junior software dev than they're expecting of that 28-year-old who portfolioed his way to a great portfolio, and they like him and they bring him in? Are they expecting different things out of those two?
Speaking personally, is if I was hiring that person, because I've been in positions to hire folks, that I guess I would be expecting a little bit more maturity and understanding just about how life works.
Gotcha.
I can understand a 20-something-year-old coming in, hearing flexible work schedule, okay, and saying, oh, I'm off, gone, doing my thing from like 2 to 5. I get off at 2, but then I come back. Let's say they are a more mature of the bunch, right?
Yeah.
And they come back and they work for a few hours at night and have the update. But hey, we have our team meeting at 2:30.
Yeah.
Like,
kind of need you here for that.
It kind of needs you here for 2:30. And they might be like, well, I thought this was a flexible work schedule. And then you have to have the conversation of like, this was the best for everyone on the team, considering everybody. We try to keep meetings to a minimum, right? So like from 2:30 to 3, this is one of the very few times we get together throughout a given week. So please try to make it, right? And yeah, you're still flexible. If after that you need to do whatever, cool. Yeah. That's at a very hip spot. Exactly. That's flexible working schedule. Like, that's not a lot of places.
Especially as a junior dev.
A lot of places, right? They're going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
8 to 5. Take your lunch. And if you don't answer your email or Microsoft Teams or Slack, even when you're on lunch and I need something to know, it's a problem.
We need to have a discussion.
Like, yeah, that's the norm, I would say.
Yeah.
That's the norm. Now,
but not from a work perspective.
If I'm talking to a 28-year-old, I'm expecting a little bit more maturity when it comes to those things.
Gotcha.
If I have to have a discussion with you about, hey, yeah, we got the 2:30 meeting, really need you there because this is one, like, I'm looking at everybody's schedule, this was the time that worked the best, and then, like, you can work however, I'm expecting you to be like, oh, yeah, like, no problem, for sure. Like, have a bit more understanding of the situation.
Gotcha.
Because the folks that are younger, they sometimes get narrowly focused on just what they want. Outside of that, for me now, if I'm just talking from the industry perspective, zooming out, I think they would expect some maturity, right? And you're going to run into folks that are kind of like, what have you been doing for the last like
That's
8 to 10
question.
years?
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
Yeah.
And this is where you have to get good at selling yourself.
Absolutely. That's actually a thought that I had written. Just that the
Yeah.
interview skills that come with the non-traditional path.
Yes, you have to get your story down so that within 5 minutes or less, you can paint enough context about who you were, who you are, the mistakes you made, the good things that you've done, and what led you to who you are now.
Yeah.
Okay? And be honest, be sincere, and tell that story. That's your story. Own your story, right? So if you can do that, that'll also display a level of maturity. And people can respect that because, yeah, I do think it's a natural thought to be like, what have you been doing for a decade? Like you just got started. You have, a month worth or no experience in some like portfolio stuff. Like that's a little odd for someone at your age, even though you don't usually even have your age on the
True. But maybe they come
on the
across
resume.
like they
But
meet
maybe it
you.
just happened in conversation, right?
Yeah.
Or you just start talking about your life, and it becomes apparent that you're a little bit older, right, in the interview, because people shouldn't be asking your age, ideally.
No, they should not.
So yeah, know that. Like, don't put it on your resume. Don't
No.
like. Let's just
You know what
disclaimer
else?
all
Just
that.
like a quick side note: don't put your address on a resume either. Do
Yeah, you
not
don't have
put
to do
your
that.
no. Just
You don't do that.
you could put the overarching. If you're applying for a job that's in a specific like time code or not time code, but no, that's what I'm thinking of. Like you got East Coast time
Yeah,
and then it goes back. Yeah, if I'm applying for a West Coast job, I need to put on that I live on the East Coast because that might affect their decision to hire me.
Yeah.
They don't need to know I live in Charlotte or what subdivision I live in or anything of that nature. They need to know what work hours. And truth be told, I've applied for jobs on the West Coast and not put that because I think more important to most companies is, are you willing to work Pacific hours opposed to do you live in the Pacific? Because I don't mind going to work from 12 to 7.
Yeah,
I
I
get
usually
some
put
stuff in the
city.
morning.
I usually put like full name, email, city.
Yeah.
Usually, like, I don't really think about it that much.
I get resumes with like full address, apartment 4B, all
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, don't. It's unnecessary.
So here's a question, and we'll wrap up this 28-year-old. As far as we talk about the interview process, I have actually never been on a technical interview, right? Just kind of skated my way through those. But as far as coming in as that coder, I'm 28 years old. I've never been on a technical interview before.
Yeah.
Where would you send a person to learn how to do technical interviews? What should they be searching? What should they be looking for?
So there are specific courses just on technical interviews.
Oh, dope.
So like if you like Udemy has a ton of them. If you go the route, like the tried and tested current route that everybody's talking about, which would be probably React Dev, get into a boot camp that teaches you React, JavaScript, JSX, all that fun stuff. You're going to learn the framework first because that's going to be a big part of the job. But then as part of your technical interview process, they're going to probably go to you and try and test you on data structures and algorithms and all that stuff. So when you're training, right, after your boot camp, you now need to be drilling data structures and algorithms and interview prep constantly. That's kind of your constant thing. If you're doing that, you should actually be able to be fine, right? But I would say learn your framework first. If we're talking about shortest amount of time as possible, and then drill data structures and algorithms, because you're not going to want to do that, and that's going to be tiring for you. If you start with that, the fear is, I guess, you might quit a little early.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think that's even what a lot of boot camps would encourage you to do too. Start with the framework, learn the tech, learn how to build something with that tech, learn the basics of the language like JavaScript, so that you can build things and understand how it plays into the whole technology stack, and then drill data structures and algorithms. Take the JavaScript interview prep course on Udemy or whatever, and then do a bunch of LeetCode problems in JavaScript.
Dope. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got that persona squared away. Let's talk about this 38-year-old. Now, at 38, most times, this might be your third career switch. You could have one really long career that you just decide, I'm no longer feeling it. as technology advances, maybe the work you were doing previously is no longer needed at the same rate or the same rate that it was previously. So now you might talk to a younger family member or friend or somebody your age that's in tech, and they've known that, hey, Johnny's been in tech like since we left college. Like, I wonder what that's like. Mm-hmm. Is there much difference between that 28 and 38-year-old into what we recommend?
I don't think so, except they may be more annoying to deal with. Like, outside of that, I think you still have to do all the same things. You still have to do all the same things as that 28-year-old. Mm-hmm. You're just going to have a harder time humbling yourself, maybe.
Then you know that humility was a large part of what I was thinking, because that 10 years doesn't feel like a large gap, but from a technology perspective, if I go back 10 years to 2013 and thinking about the level of tech that we had access to then versus to what we have now, it's a completely different world, right? Yeah. So I'd only imagine that my understanding of tech at 38 would be completely different from a holistic standpoint. So I might have to start back at the very base of, I might need somebody to explain to me what a mobile app is. I might need somebody to explain, all right, so there's iOS and there's, before I can jump into anything else, that humility is required, because you may have to go back further. I would actually assume so, that you have to go back further to create that foundation again.
Yeah, there's a foundational computer literacy that you need. And just understanding how this technology works, how a computer works, high level things about just how your phone works and interacting with technology. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of a given assumption in these types of roles. If I was that age and I felt like I'm not there yet, then I would do things like little things in my life. Like if you game, right? Mm-hmm. Try and game on a PC versus try to game on your Xbox. You're going to have to learn some different things. You're going to have to install the apps differently. You're going to have to deal with some crashes. You're going to have to like see like just how computers kind of flow.
Yeah.
Other than that though, like if you need to, take a computer literacy course.
Yeah.
There are courses that teach you how to navigate files and folders and how, like, what to click on and how to use a tablet effectively, how to use your computer effectively. Like, take those courses, learn those things, and continue working on those things constantly, so that when you are faced with the next level of learning, which is your programming, all that fun stuff, you have a little bit more of a foundation.
Yeah. I think an important reminder for this age group is that it is not too late.
No.
Like we talked about people becoming ingrained in their ways and different things of that nature. People may feel, oh, I would love something new, but it just seems so far away and so difficult, so distant. Start with those small projects. Okay, well, I want to learn something small. Maybe it doesn't have to turn into a job right now, but I'll build the confidence that the leap I thought was large is in fact not that big by taking on the things like you mentioned, or following along with a small coding class. And before you know it, I think love of the game becomes much more important at 38 than at 18. Because at 18, I still have, now mind you, I'm not calling anybody 38 or plus old, but at 18, you have so much time to pivot.
Yeah.
Just because of what you haven't experienced, the leap doesn't seem too far. You're young, you got energy. Okay, no, I'm going to be a nurse now. You just go flip, and they probably still have some programs for you that you can go get it for free, whatever the case may be. But at 38, I think love of what you're learning is so much more important, because I assume that you have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
At 38, probably have people who depend on you.
Yeah.
By 38, right? You probably have responsibilities that just leaving and jumping what you found that might be taking care of it or may not be taking care of it. It makes it difficult to find that time and energy. But this is where I move in that value piece more away from money, because the money will find you if you become talented and good at what you do, but you move into something that interests you, something that maybe helps you outside of a monetary thing. Like if I'm learning how to code and I can create a program to help me with my everyday life, that's the love of it transferring into a potential skill for you. But that's what I'm more focused on for that person and that persona, not how much money you're gonna be able to turn over and make, because hopefully by 38 you've made yourself a little bit of money anyway.
I mean, I doubt it.
It's
if you really want a career change, you probably haven't made that much money.
I'll give you a perfect example. A family member of mine was college degree and everything, worked in her field for years, very fulfilling field, and had a child and was looking back at that same field, and legit the only thought was, I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Okay.
And through conversations and different things, she picked up a tech skill, now works as a PM for a startup, and that's just how that kind of moved. But she was able to finesse a lot of skills she had from her previous career. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily like I gotta go hustle and go get it. It was just like, I have the ability to pivot.
I feel like that's an outlier example.
Think so?
Yeah, I feel like the vast majority of people 38 plus that think about wanting to get into tech are like, I don't like my career. I'm not making enough money. I want to make more money.
Maybe you just have to split the hair on that one.
I don't know, man. I feel like that's just what I've seen.
I feel like I know more 38s.
I'm not quoting any serious statistics.
Yeah, right.
Feel me? Like, that's gut.
I feel like, gut here feels like that 38 is more likely to work 2 or 3 jobs to try to figure out. Like, instead of figuring the new skill out to increase my revenue or how much money I make, they're just like, I'll just go get another job. I'll just work security at night. I'll just go see if I can pick up some overtime. I feel like that people in that age bracket are more used to, and let us know in the comments, exchanging time for money, opposed to exchanging. If the thought is I need more money, they're more used to exchanging time for money opposed to knowledge that'll in turn increase your revenue.
I struggle with so much that you just said.
How?
There's so much that like I don't like about that idea. Like
that doesn't change anything.
I'm not saying
about
what you're saying that people think that is wrong. I'm sure, yeah, people think that.
Yeah.
But if you're 38 years old and you think I'm just gonna go work a security job, making $15 an hour, maybe.
That's more than I had before.
For how many hours?
Depends on the hours.
So like quick job. Math. What's the math?
Right,
let's say if I'm working 8 hours.
So let's say I got my regular 9 to 5, right? Boom. I get out to 5 o'clock. I go home, see my family and my kids for 30 minutes, eat some food, take a quick power nap, and back out on the block around 8:39.
Okay.
So I'm gonna work I feel like a shift for like a half shift for security might be like 9 to like 4.
So you're sleeping on the job?
No. I sleep when I get back
9
home.
to 4 a.m.
9 to 4 a.m. Yeah, 9 to 4 a.m.
Okay. And then you're sleeping for like 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for how many hours was that?
9 to 4, that's 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 7-hour shift.
Okay. So before taxes, $105 a day.
That's more than he had
Hold on. And you're doing 5 days a week?
Give him 3. He ain't no machine.
3 days a week. Okay.
He ain't no machine.
Okay. $350 a week.
Yeah.
That's before taxes.
Yeah.
So let's, times that by 52 divided by, I'm
going to tell you what you're missing here.
That's $1,365.
A month?
A month.
So.
Before taxes.
I've made $1,365 a month. Let's say
and your additional job that you're spending 9 hours.
At 9 hours. Let's say
3 days a
Uncle
week.
Sam come and take another $400 out of that. I'm under a rack when I'm done. I'm like 965, right?
Yeah.
I have about $1,000 extra at the end of the month. In 3 months, I have $3,000 extra. I know this math is weird, but hear me out, right? Do you think they'd make $3,000 a month if they started studying the Udemy courses in tech?
All right. The question all boils down to how much money are they making right now in their regular job too?
That doesn't matter.
Like total, how much are they making?
That doesn't matter
across both jobs.
We're talking about exchanging time for money or exchanging knowledge for money but one has a back end curve, because you and I both agree. Let's say it takes them 6 months. They from 9 to 4 a.m. they in Udemy and books crazy.
Yeah, you're going to be zero to negative money for like a year plus.
A lot of people don't see that. That's why I'm
like
saying.
You're not going to be zero to negative extra money.
Clearly the better path from a long-term perspective. But I think a lot of those people would rather go get it now because they received the instant gratification. If I'm 38, I probably got bills now. Opposed to being patient and waiting for the real money to come in on the back end. That's, I want to say, a young man's game, but that 18 and 28-year-old has the time to wait on that. That 38, he probably got back surgery bills or something. I don't know. I'm going to have a back surgery when I'm 38.
Hey, but we might all do it.
Absolutely. But that, I think, is the main difference. Can I get it now? And it might be a small percentage of what I can get in the future. But I have it now.
So we're talking about the problem of having a broke mentality versus a like equitable investment oriented mentality.
Well, yeah.
Because that's the same mentality that makes me think, I'm going to buy these $350 pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
Instead of like
putting
his money, Pluralsight course, or putting his money into an index fund or whatever.
We speaking from a position of privilege right now here in this discussion. But let me ask you a question.
But we've lived both sides.
Absolutely.
So
but we're talking about but we've already discussed outliers. You and I are clearly outliers to the situation.
I get it, but I'm saying this is a broke mentality, and I'm not going to act like it's not.
Out of the 18, the 28, and the 38, let's say they all walk into this with a broke mentality.
Yep.
Who's going to take the longer to shake that broke mentality? I assume it's the person with 20 more years in that mentality.
I actually feel like it might be the opposite. The 38, bro, the 38-year-old. You're talking about a 38-year-old who's actually willing to make a change and get into tech?
That's a clear and very good
that's crazy in and of itself.
Absolutely.
So they're
for them to even be a part of this discussion, they're interested in making the shift.
That person probably an outlier.
That's fair.
They're an outlier in and of themselves. So I'm actually going to bet more on that person trying to reverse their broke mentality than the 28-year-old that's trying to. I think there's going to be more 28-year-olds that try and say, I want to do this and just not. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be less 38-year-olds in general, but more out of the group, relatively speaking.
They want to do it, that they're actually
going to do it.
I'm with you there. That makes sense. You've convinced me.
This just leads to hold on. Stop with the broke mentality. It's so frustrating to me. Like, look, I get it. You want them Jordans. But bro, if you ain't making over 75 to 90K a year, I don't want to hear about Jordans.
I still gotta go outside.
I don't care.
All right,
wear some slides.
You're saying that because
get some $20 Nike slides
in your size.
Bro, I got Jordans in my size. They just had to get special order.
Okay, it's
all the way over East Bay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're talking about.
They're not like the ones that's dropping though.
No, absolutely not. You gotta make a call for those.
That's not happening. But yeah, I've never really cared. But like, I buy other expensive things.
Yeah, everybody got their things.
So everyone's got their things. We're saying Jordans just as an example. But if you're not making over a certain amount of money,
I think
stop buying Jordans.
Well, the same thing could be said, and I think what it comes down to more or less is take honest stock in view of your life, because
we're being so nice right now. But I appreciate how nice you're being right now.
But it is what it is, because some of those people, I always joke and say, you have to decide what type of poor you want to be. Yeah. Right. Some people want to be car poor. They're gonna have the craziest car out in their front lawn, but the house looks like crap, and they never left. Some people want to be travel poor. Hey man, I Uber everywhere. I live in a studio apartment, but I'm never home. I'm always somewhere else. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you decide what brings you happiness. I think the larger focus, or the more critical aspect of a broke mentality is, are you thinking for the now, or are you thinking for your future? That pair of Jordans, that new car, that trip that empties your bank account brings you instant gratification. And as a society, we have an issue with instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Now, we all know and can agree, the delayed gratification always brings you more. The thing you have to work hard for, the person of interest that you had to put in a little extra effort to call and text and check up on, the job that you had to go above the extra mile for, always brings you back more satisfaction than the quick.
Yeah,
I think that's much more important here than the broke mentality, because it'll spike into a million other mentalities that we can discuss here.
The broke mentality will stop you from investing in yourself.
Yeah.
When you have this mentality of buying these things before I
or spending your time
should or spending my time doing other things.
Yeah, it's not just money. Spending my time and energy.
Time or money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It stops you from, oh, well, now I don't really have the money I need to buy that course or buy that book. Or, this was a random opportunity that came with this course I saw. It was like $500. I can't buy it because I bought them Jordans.
Yeah, I was out in the club.
Like now these decisions are affecting your ability to invest yourself. I'm biased towards spend as much money as you want and can on investing in yourself. Knowledge, skills, abilities. You have to. If you don't, no matter what field you're in, tech or not,
what age group you're in,
you're going to fall behind and you're going to look up one day and you're not going to be where you want to be. So like when I'm saying broke mentality, I'm speaking from this like very guttural place because I see it as ruining your own life.
Yeah, but that's...
like, I can buy Jordans now. I buy all the Jordans I want. I want a Jordans. I'm going to buy some Jordans. I want the truck. I'm going to go buy the truck.
Mid-journey yourself up some Jordans.
Yeah. Look, Jordans. Right. Make me some Hulk-themed Jordans. Oh, man.
Hulk,
imagine if it would.
Hulk-themed Jordans. I want no parts of whatever you're about to pull up on the screen.
Jordans. We're going to have to copy the screenshot of the thing because everyone will see it. But, look, this mindset, and if anyone just please say it, like, it's because I care. I don't want to care.
That could get lost in translation sometimes.
I don't want to care. That's why I'm saying it. It's because I care. Like, this is passion you're hearing. You can be better. I know you can be better. And somewhere deep inside, you know you can be better. Mm-hmm. But just like all of us weird humans, sometimes we get to points in life where we make decisions that are counterproductive to the things we know we should be doing. This is your daily dose of encouragement to stop doing that thing.
Yeah.
Just stop it. Look at these Hulk-themed Jordans, bro. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be.
You know what
they're not finished yet.
You know what I love more than anything? What? Is that your prompt was some Hulk-themed Jordans, not Hulk-themed
because it sounded like I read the full sentence. Imagine some Hulk-themed Jordans. Like,
those aren't that crazy.
No, these are kind of, these ones at the top right though.
Yeah, those are kind of hard.
Those are kind of nice.
Wouldn't catch me dead in them, but
bro, I will wear these.
I know you would. But
you know I would wear these.
6'8".
I can wear what I want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can wear any of these. I can wear any of these except these right here.
Yeah, no.
I'm not wearing those. I don't like those. But these three, I'm wearing those. I'm sorry.
I might have to make a call.
That's amazing.
I know somebody who can get you those.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, that got passionate at the end.
Absolutely.
I love all of you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is like the time when we get calm. The voice goes down a little bit. And I tell you that you're worth something.
You are.
Okay. You are worth something. And you're right, though. It does get lost in translation. I'm very gruff by nature.
It's aggressive.
Right? It is. It's aggressive love. That's what it is. Like, I'm going to say the difficult thing all the time. Right. And the only way that I don't, and I've learned this over time because I used to not be this way, is if I see that it's going to crush you. That's my only barrier now. And I'm proud of that barrier.
I can speak to that barrier being formed. I do remember that time where that barrier wasn't.
It wasn't. I didn't care if it crushed you. I was like, good.
Yeah.
It'll test you.
Yeah,
right?
I've been crushed. Sometimes you need to be crushed.
Yeah. Now I try not to, and I think that these are the things that people need to know. Any closing statements before we sign off?
I'll say to wrap us up. When we looked at that 18-year-old, exposure was the large focus from that college student, high school student.
Explore.
Yeah, explore, see what you want. You have a lot of time to see which one of those value propositions, whether it's money, the environment, your management, work-life balance.
You chose a domain.
Yeah.
Now explore within your domain.
Absolutely. The 28-year-old, we talked about how important that portfolio is because you're most likely not going to have that degree or stamp behind you that's going to walk you into those doors. But from a coding perspective, that you can show experience by means of a tightly well created and constructed portfolio. And if there's anything that the both of us I know will agree on is they don't care where you've been if they know you can do the job. And nothing shows that better than a portfolio.
Yep.
And then we have split thoughts on this 38-year-old technically, but I don't think overall.
Yo, leave y'all thoughts in the comments about the 38-year-old persona. Rewind it, rewatch it, and tell us what y'all think.
I think what we can agree on, love it. Find the thing you love and run and pick that and run through it. I think that's more important for that 38-year-old than it is for any other time group, because that hustle, that love that you're interested in, that'll drive you when you got people depending on you. You might not have as much time as those other two age groups. So that's it for me, dog. I think this was a real interesting conversation.
Cool. Yeah, beautiful conversation. We appreciate y'all. This should be out next week, Monday. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace out.